What would you do if the person you spent your best years looking for was right within reach? But fate decided to play a cruel game of hide and seek. After endless days of hopeless waiting, Diem finally received precious news about Toan's current whereabouts. But today will the heavens have mercy and let the couple reunite in happy tears? Or will destiny mock them once again, cruelly letting them pass each other by a hair's breadth? The answer will leave you holding your breath. Don't forget to like and subscribe right now to follow Diem on this tearful journey to find her lost love. Inside the spacious kitchen of the silent two-story house, the sound of water running from the faucet felt strangely lonely. Diem stood by the sink, her thin hands submerged in white foam, mechanically scrubbing porcelain plates that weren't even dirty. It had been a long time, ever since Tone went missing, that this kitchen hadn't seen a proper family meal cooked. Yet Diem kept the habit. Every day she cleaned, tidied up, and arranged every bowl and pair of chopsticks as if she only needed to turn around for Toan to walk in, smile, and ask, "What are you cooking today, honey?" Outside, the monsoon wind began to blow, whistling through the window cracks like the earth itself was sighing. Diem paused, looking out into the dark garden where the rose bushes she and Toan planted together were now withered without the care of the man of the house. Housework might seem like an easy task, but for Diem, it was an escape. She threw herself into washing, mopping the floors, and ironing her husband's old shirts, flat folding them into the closet, then pulling them out to iron again. She was afraid of free time, because whenever she was free, the memories of him would rush back, tearing at her heart, turning this house full of memories into a grave burying her youth. The scent of lavender fabric softener, Toan's favorite, now became the scent of separation, triggering a sharp pain in her chest. While she was busy wiping the dining table until it was shiny enough to see her reflection, the landline phone in the living room suddenly rang. The shrill ringing tore through the silence of the house, making Diem jump and drop the rag. She stood frozen, her heart pounding. Who would call at dinner time? Friends and family knew she lived a secluded life and rarely bothered her at this hour. A strange feeling ran down her spine, urging her legs to move quickly toward the phone. "Hello, this is Diem speaking," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, though her hand was trembling. On the other end was the deep, serious voice of a stranger. "Hello, ma'am. I apologize for disturbing you during your rest. I'm calling from the District X Police. Is this the residence of Miss Diem, the wife of Mr. Pham Van Tone, who reported him missing over a year ago?" The name Toan, coming from the police officer's mouth, made Diem's legs give out. She had to grip the edge of the wooden table tightly to keep from collapsing. Her breathing became rapid, her throat tight. Yes, that's right. It's me. Is there news about my husband, officer? Has he been found?" Diem stammered, tears flowing uncontrollably. "Please stay calm and listen to me." The officer lowered his voice. "This morning, Mr. Long, a large farm owner near the river, brought a man to our station to file a report. Mr. Long said that quite a while ago, he found this man washed up on the riverbank near his farm, suffering from a severe traumatic brain injury." Diem held her breath. The world around her seemed to crumble, leaving only the voice on the phone. "Traumatic brain injury," she muttered. picturing her husband in pain, alone in the cold water, her heart cutting like a knife. The officer continued, "Mr. Long is a kind man. Seeing someone in distress, he saved him and took him in. After the man woke up, he had completely lost his memory and didn't know who he was, so Mr. Long let him stay and work on the farm. But over the last few days, he's had a high fever, and in his delirium, he keeps calling out, 'Diem, Diem, come home for dinner.' Mr. Long thought it was strange, and noticing he had a scar on his wrist that matched the missing person flyer at the district bus station, he brought him here for us to verify. Come home for dinner." Diem burst into sobbing tears. That sentence, the familiar text he sent her every afternoon when she was busy with work, was now being spoken by a man with amnesia in a faraway place. It was Ton. It had to be Ton. Only he was that obsessed with family meals, even when his memory was shattered. Yes, I'm coming right now. Officer, please tell Mr. Long to keep him there for me. Don't let him go anywhere. I beg you." Diem screamed into the phone, then hung up and rushed out of the house like a hurricane. She forgot she was still wearing her house pajamas, forgot she hadn't locked the kitchen door, forgot her slippers were still wet. Diem grabbed a thin jacket and her car keys, rushing into the pitch-black night. It started to rain, the cold drops hitting her face, but it was nothing compared to the storm raging inside her. During the long taxi ride, Diem couldn't sit still. She kept clasping her hands together, muttering prayers. She remembered the days that had passed, the days she spent alone in the big house, wiping every one of his keepsakes in despair. She'd kept this house clean and tidy just to wait for the day he returned. And today, would that waiting be rewarded, or was fate mocking her one more time? Arriving at the police station, Diem rushed inside looking soaking wet and dazed, making everyone turn their heads. A young officer led her toward the duty room. There, she saw two men, a middle-aged man with a kind-faced tanned skin and wearing dark khakis that had to be Mr. Long, the benefactor who saved her husband's life. As for the other person, the one huddled on the wooden chair holding his head, his shoulders shaking uncontrollably, Diem slowed her pace, her legs feeling as heavy as lead. She held her breath and whispered, "Tuan." The man slowly lifted his face. His cheeks were gaunt, his stubble was patchy, and his deep-set eyes were filled with fear and confusion. No matter how much he had changed, no matter how the wind and weathering had masked his former scholar-like look, Diem recognized those eyes instantly. It was him. It was the husband she had cried herself dry over every single night. But tragically, there was no spark of recognition in the way he looked at her. He stared at her, blankly bewildered, as if looking at a stranger passing on the street. There was no warm smile, no open arms waiting to hold her. Just a bone-chilling emptiness. "Miss, were you calling me?" Tuan's voice was hoarse and unfamiliar. Diem felt like someone was crushing her heart. She covered her mouth to stifle a sob. Mr. Long, standing nearby, sighed and spoke sympathetically. "You must be Diem, right, the poor guy? Ever since I pulled him out of the water, his mind has been a blank slate. I gave him the nickname, Hai Lua. He's very gentle and hard-working, but always seems a bit lost. He's been sick lately and kept calling your name, so I figured you were family and brought him here." Mr. Long's words felt like salt being rubbed into Diem's wounds, yet they were also her greatest comfort. He had forgotten everything, forgotten even himself, but the name Diem and the longing to come home for dinner were still deeply etched in his subconscious. Diem swallowed her tears. She moved closer, knelt down in front of Toan and grasped his rough, calloused hands. Hands that once only held paintbrushes, but were now covered in the scratches of manual labor. Toan, it's me, Diem. I'm your wife. I'm here to take you home for dinner. Our house is so clean. I clean it every day just waiting for you to come back. Tuan pulled his hands back slightly in fear, but the woman's sincere and pained gaze made him hesitate. He looked deep into her eyes. A faint glimmer of light seemed to spark in the dark corners of his memory, but then it vanished just as quickly. Go home. Do I really have a home? Tuan asked, innocent as a child. Diem nodded furiously, tears dripping onto the backs of his hands. Yes, you have a home. Our home. Where the roses you planted are the sofa you love, the hot rice and sweet soup I cook. Let's go home, honey. Don't be lost anymore. Outside the window, the rain was still pouring, but in that cold little room, a fire of love and hope was beginning to kindle again. Even though his memory was gone, Diem believed that with her love, she would help him write new pages of memory. The road ahead would be long and thorny to recover his past and face those who had harmed him and reduced him to this state. But tonight, just knowing he was alive, just having him here, was enough. Fate might hide the truth, but it cannot separate loving hearts. Diem's battle to snatch her husband back from the hands of death and oblivion was only just beginning. Diem remained kneeling there, her knees numb on the cold police station tiles, but she felt no physical pain. The agony in her soul overwhelmed everything else. She stared at the man before her, the husband she shared a life with, the father of the children she had dreamed of. His gaze back at her, empty and terrified, like a small animal backed into a corner, ripped her heart into 1,000 pieces. Inside Diem's head, right now, it wasn't just pain. It was a horrifying shock that made the world spin. For over a year, during those long, sleepless nights, Diem had imagined hundreds of scenarios about Tuan's disappearance. Sometimes she resented him. Sometimes she was angry because the last message she received from his number was brief. I've arrived safely. Work abroad is very busy. Don't worry, I'll contact you later. That message had made her believe he'd actually flown overseas, that he had abandoned her to chase fame, or worse, to chase some other woman in the West. Diem had hated him. She hated how he could cruelly cast aside their home. She hated how he could live a life of luxury in a new horizon, while she withered away in a house full of memories. That very thought, he is living well abroad, was both a source of pain and a sedative that kept her alive. At least she knew he was safe. But what was this reality right in front of her eyes? This was not a successful businessman in a sharp suit stepping out of a skyscraper in Paris or London. This was Hai Lua, as Mr. Long called him, ragged, emaciated, with hands cracked from mud and a face darkened by the sun and wind. This was a man with no memory, wandering aimlessly, pulled back from the gates of death. Oh God, Tuan. Diem gasped, her voice breaking into a sob. She reached out and touched the long raised scar on his temple, partially hidden by his hair. Her fingers trembled against his cold skin. Who? Who did this to you? Who lied to me that you went abroad? Who was cruel enough to push you to your death and steal your memory? A million questions exploded in Diem's mind like a violent storm. If he was here in this wretched state, then who sent that text message saying he was safe? Who had his phone? Who orchestrated that perfect overseas business trip cover story to hide this heinous crime? A dark conspiracy, some cruel, invisible hand had manipulated their marriage, turning them into pawns in a deadly game she knew nothing about. Rage began to seep into her grief. Diem tightened her grip on Tone's hand. She felt gut-wrenching pity for him, but also terror at the brutal truth slowly being revealed. Toan saw her crying and touched his scar. He flinched instinctively, his eyes wide and guarded. But then perhaps feeling the painful trembling of the stranger's hand, or maybe because deep in his subconscious, her familiar scent, though faded by the rain, still signaled safety, he gradually relaxed. He whispered, his voice hoarse and halting like a toddler learning to speak. "Miss, please don't cry. I don't know you, but right here." He placed a hand over his left chest where his heart beat. "It feels very sad in here when I see you cry." That innocent sentence from a man with no memory completely shattered Diem's last line of defense. She burst into uncontrollable sobs, not caring about her appearance or the people watching. She threw her arms around him, burying her face in his thin chest. His old shirt smelled of mold, mud, and hard labor, but to Diem in that moment, it was the most precious scent in the world. Her emotions were a chaotic, tearing mess. Half of her was exploding with joy, the ultimate happiness of knowing he was alive in the flesh, his heart beating right next to her ear. God had shown mercy. He hadn't handed her a cold urn of ashes. He was alive, which meant there was hope, but the other half was a bone-deep sorrow. She was sad because of the stranger's look in his eyes. She felt a wave of self-pity because over a year of suppressed longing wasn't met with a tight embrace, but only blank confusion. She was in agony, thinking about the days he suffered alone. While she slept in a warm, soft bed, the husband she cherished had been fighting death in a cold river, then living a life of servitude, not knowing who he was or where he belonged. Standing nearby, Mr. Long couldn't hold back his tears either. He turned away, wiping a droplet from his aged eye. He understood this reunion wasn't a fairy tale ending, but the start of a thorny journey to reclaim what was lost. Diem slowly let go of Tone. She cupped his gaunt face in her hands, looking deep into his eyes, trying to pour all her love into that gaze. "Toan, listen to me. It doesn't matter if you don't remember. It doesn't matter if you've forgotten me. As long as you're alive, I will help you remember everything. I will find the person who did this to you and make them pay for every single scar on your body. From this moment on, I won't let anyone hurt you ever again." That vow wasn't just for Toan. It was Diem's declaration of war against fate and the enemies in the shadows. The gentle housewife who only knew the corners of her kitchen was dead. From the ashes of trauma, a strong, fierce, and resilient Diem was rising. She would take him home. She would heal him. And she would turn this world upside down to find the truth. Outside, the rain began to let up, leaving only the sound of dripping water on the eaves. Night still covered everything, but inside Diem a fire had been lit. a fire of love, hope, and vengeance. Diem turned to Mr. Long, wiping her tears, her voice incredibly steady. "Mr. Long, thank you. Thank you for giving my husband a second life. I will never forget this debt of gratitude. Now, with your permission, I'm taking him home. Our home." Then she turned to Toan, holding his hand tight, and spoke gently. "Let's go, honey. Let's go home. I'll make that sour fish soup you like. Let's go. Have dinner." Toan looked at Diem, then at Mr. Long, as if seeking permission. Seeing Mr. Long nod encouragingly, he timidly stood up. His hand fit perfectly inside Diem's small hand. For the first time in over a long year, he felt a warmth run through his body, chasing away the cold loneliness. He didn't know what home was or what a wife was, but he knew that following this woman meant he wouldn't be afraid anymore. Two figures, one large and one small, supported each other as they walked out of the police station and into the night, leaving the days of being lost behind. But little did they know, Toan's return wasn't an end, but the beginning of a far more terrifying storm waiting ahead. When the people who destroyed Toan find out he's still alive, will they let it slide? The rain outside had ceased, leaving only a damp chill seeping through the station windows, filling the space with the cold of late night. But that chill was nothing compared to the shiver running down Diem's spine as she started piecing things together. She supported Tone as he stood, her small hand gripping his arm, skin and bone, nothing more. The feeling of his sharp bones beneath the rough fabric made her heart constrict in spasms of pain. Before leaving, Diem turned to Mr. Long, the simple farmer with a weathered face, but eyes shining with kindness. She bowed low, a gesture carrying the weight of her husband's life. "Mr. Long, I don't know how to repay you for this. If it weren't for you, my husband would have been lost to the river or buried under that cold mud." Mr. Long waved his hand, his gentle smile revealing the wrinkles around his eyes. "Don't mention it. I guess it was fate. I went to check the pomelo garden early that day and saw him caught in the weeds by the riverbank. When I pulled him up, he was barely breathing, his head covered in blood. My old mother and I didn't think he would make it." Mr. Long's eyes saddened with emotion as he mentioned his mother. "It was really thanks to my mom. She's nearly 80, frail and weak, but she cared for him like he was her own grandson. For a whole month while he was in a coma, she hand-fed him every spoonful of porridge, cleaned him, and changed his bandages. She kept saying he looked so gentle, wondering why he had such a terrible fate to be beaten so savagely." Hearing this, Diem's tears threatened to spill over again. An elderly stranger, a farmer with no relation to them, had treated her husband better than the so-called friends and drinking buddies he used to have. The grandmother, she saved his life. Diem murmured, etching this kindness into her heart. "Tomorrow, once Toan is stable, I promise I'll bring him back here to personally thank you and your mother." After saying goodbye to Mr. Long and promising to keep in touch, Diem helped Tone into the car. The taxi rolled into the night, taking them away from the remote countryside and back to the city. The entire way, Ton sat in silence, his wide eyes watching the yellow street lights streak past the window. He was like a child seeing the world for the first time, curious yet terrified. Diem didn't dare ask many questions. She just quietly held his hand, passing him her warmth so he knew he wasn't alone anymore. When they arrived, the familiar villa appeared before them. Diem unlocked the door and turned on the lights. Warm golden light flooded the living room. She turned to look at Tuan, waiting for a spark of recognition in his eyes. But there was nothing. He stood, huddled by the doorway, timidly looking at the luxurious sofa, the glittering crystal chandelier, the paintings on the wall. Everything was foreign to him. This was his house, the place he had designed every little corner of himself. Yet now he stepped inside like a fearful stranger. "Come inside," Diem said gently. "This is our home. You're safe now." She led him upstairs to the bedroom and prepared a hot bath. It wasn't until she peeled off his old mud-stained work clothes that Diem truly saw the devastation her husband had endured. Under the bathroom lights, his body was emaciated ribs protruding from beneath pale skin. But what horrified Diem the most were the scars. It wasn't just the long one on his head. His back and shoulders were covered in scratches and bruises that had turned dark over time. These were the marks of blunt force, of being dragged, and perhaps even torture. Diem's hand trembled as she lightly touched the large raised scar on the back of his neck. This wound was definitely caused by a hard, heavy object striking with full force. It was a kill shot. A blow meant not to warn, but to take a life. "It hurts." Tuan groaned softly, shrinking away. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Diem sobbed, her tears mixing with the warm water washing over him. Who could be this cruel? They wanted to kill you. They really wanted you dead. In that moment, the agonizing pain in Diem's heart suddenly turned into a cold block of hatred. She remembered that text message, that fateful message, "I've arrived safely." If Tone was being beaten, head smashed, and thrown into the river at that time, then who was holding his phone? Who wrote that message? There was only one answer. The mastermind. That person had planned it meticulously. He knocked Ton unconscious and threw him into the river to dispose of the body, staging a disappearance. Then he used Ton's phone to text her so she wouldn't come looking, making her believe he had abandoned her. He wanted her to live in torment and hopeless waiting while he walked free, confident that Tuan's body had drifted out to sea and vanished forever. But man proposes, God disposes. The river did not swallow him. Mr. Long and his kind mother wrestled him back from the hands of death. Tuan survived. Even with his memory gone, his very existence was the most undeniable evidence of their crime. After soothing Tone into a deep sleep, his most peaceful rest, after a year of wandering, Diem stepped out of the room and gently closed the door. She didn't sleep. She went down to the living room, grabbed her phone, and called back the officer in charge of the case. The clock showed 2:00 a.m., but she couldn't wait another second. Early the next morning, at the city police headquarters, Diem sat across from the investigator. Her face was gaunt after a sleepless night, but her eyes burned with a fierce determination never seen before. She placed a close-up photo of Tuan's head wound and the preliminary medical report she had just obtained from the hospital that morning onto the table. "Officers," Diem's voice rang out clear and steely. "I'm not here to ask you to close a missing persons file. I am here to report an attempted murder." The officer looked at her, then at the evidence on the table, his expression turning serious. "Ms. Diem, please stay calm and explain your suspicions clearly." Diem took a deep breath and began piecing the clues together. My husband Toan didn't just leave on his own, and this wasn't some random accident. The wound on his head came from being struck from behind with a heavy object. He was thrown into the river while unconscious. This was an attempt to destroy evidence. It was premeditated murder. She pulled out her old phone and opened the text message from a year ago. And then there's this. Someone took my husband's phone and pretended to be him to throw off the investigation to make me believe he had gone abroad. If he was critically injured and floating in a river, he couldn't have sent this. Whoever had my husband's phone at that moment is the killer or the mastermind. I am requesting that the police open a formal investigation to find the person who sent this text, the person who did this to my husband. He has lost his memory and can't defend himself, but I can. I will not stop until I drag whoever is hiding in the shadows out into the light. The officer nodded his eyes, showing admiration for this small but resilient woman. He opened his notebook and began writing. "We will accept your report. The fact that Mr. Toan survived and returned is a miracle, and it's the key to cracking this case. We will coordinate with the district police where the victim was found to re-examine the scene and trace the phone signal." Stepping out of the station, the morning sun began to shine down on the city. Diem looked up at the deep blue sky. This battle would be long and dangerous. She knew that by filing this report, she had officially declared war on a faceless enemy. He was out there somewhere, maybe trembling now that he knew Toan was alive, or maybe plotting another dark scheme to tie up loose ends. But Diem wasn't afraid. She remembered the image of the frail old woman with trembling hands feeding her husband spoonfuls of porridge. The kindness of strangers had saved his life, and now her love and determination would be the shield protecting him from every storm. "Toan, just wait for me. Justice may be delayed, but it will come. I will make them pay for every drop of blood, for every bit of pain you had to endure." Diem started the car and sped off into the morning breeze. She had to get home fast. Toan was waiting for her, and she knew from this day on she wasn't just a wife anymore. She was a bodyguard, an investigator, and his only rock in this life and death battle.